From WSL Pure, this is One Ocean. Hey everyone, Reese here, and today we're going to learn how the spirit of kōkua can change the world. Welcome to another episode of WSL Pure One Ocean, where we talk to, learn from, and laugh with some of the incredible people out there working to protect our one shared ocean. Yes, we say one ocean because when you really zoom out, when you look at the Earth from space, not that I have, but we've all seen the famous imagery of our pale blue dot. And when you do that, you realize it's all connected. In fact, our planet is more blue than green. Yes, really, it's a full 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by the ocean. And while the ocean affects all of us, even those of you listening hundreds of miles from the coast, we see you out there, we hear you, we know you're there. I think our island-dwelling friends really feel that connection to the ocean. So today, I'm excited to share a conversation with someone from the North Shore of Oahu who has helped make huge environmental impacts in her local community and around the globe. She's co-founded a couple nonprofits that work to prevent plastic pollution and connect kids to local-grown food. She's led the amazing sustainability efforts of musician Jack Johnson's tours, and she somehow still finds time to be a mother, a community member, and even surfs. I'm talking about Kim Johnson, and I'd be remiss to not also note how generous Kim and her team are. In the midst of a really busy week full of activations with school kids up and down the coast during the Vans Triple Crown of Surfing, the Kokua team welcomed me in and gave me a spot to record a few podcast episodes at their office on the North Shore. We've collaborated on a few projects together, and on every one, you really feel that kōkua from them and from their team, from Kim and from everyone in their family. And kōkua is a Hawaiian word that means a spirit of giving without any expectation in return. And I felt that in spades while I was on the North Shore, and I hope you can pick up some of that in this conversation with Kim Johnson. How would you introduce yourself to the world? How do you define yourself? Like, I don't ever like to say, like, what do you do?
Right.
But
well, I guess, like everyone, I wear multiple hats, but my first and foremost would be mother. And that definitely, identifying as a mother has bearing on everything that I do. And then secondly, I would call myself a teacher. So that also has affected all the areas of my life.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a better way to introduce yourself than just like, my title is this thing.
Yeah. It's funny. Titles are funny.
Yeah, they're weird.
Yes.
They're super weird.
I try to stay away from too many titles, but people like to put titles on you.
They're necessary for organizations and structure, I guess. But the reality is you're just kind of a force. I would describe you as a force. You're a force for good in the ocean conservation world and in the Hawaiian community. That's the way I see it.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
I mean, I'm not the only person who recognizes that, right? Like Surfrider recently honored you. It's one of their women making waves. And it's because you have this legacy of doing work. Like you know, to get this honor now is cool, but you've been doing so much of this work for so long.
And I guess I'm more a behind the scenes person. So that was actually really hard for me to have to go up there and acknowledge that, because I think I like being behind the scenes doing the work. That's where I'm most comfortable. I'm obviously in my family, I'm not the person who's on the stage and used to that. So, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I think it's important to see. I mean, you've done so much work. And so, naming some of those things, it's the greening of Jack's tour. And that's Jack Johnson, for those who don't know the connection readily. But the greening of his tour, you led a lot of that. And then all at once, the Social Action Network. And then you have Johnson Ohana Foundation and Kokua Hawaii Foundation. You have all these different initiatives. That's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot. And sometimes I wonder, when do I get to sleep? But yes, it's a lot. But it's usually not all at the same time. And, things kind of come in these waves. And it's all things that we didn't set out and plan on doing. They just kind of came about.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny, because I really did start my career as a teacher. So but bringing those ideas of education into all of these different facets, it has applied in all these different areas of our lives now.
In another episode, we spoke with Natalie from Kokua Hawaii Foundation, and we talked a lot about the education you do with youth and how important that is, because you're educating a whole generation. You've done 10 years now, and you have this whole generation of kids who are getting super active as they become voters. And as she said, yes. She's like, I want them to come run for city council now and come back to the island, go out, learn, come back, and then help make this place better. And that's so cool that you've included education in all that you do. I think it's really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually, we'll be 17 years for Kokua in 2020. And so And some of our programs, have been around a little less, but we've now seen students who started with us in kindergarten who are now, graduating from college. Some of them have actually come back to work with us. So to see that full circle and to see that, this has been a lifetime for them, when you get older, somehow, 17 years goes, oh yeah, that was just a little while ago. But then you realize, oh yeah, we're just getting older and time is stretching out. But for these students, and they're now, embarking on their careers and taking a little bit of what they learned from what we did with them through Kokua with them in their lives, which is amazing.
Yeah, time is really weird. Yesterday, I surfed quickly with Kona, ran into Mo, your son, and he goes, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And I said, oh, actually, we met on the sea change expedition really quickly. We hung out for a night, and he should not remember me, but I was like, you were this tall and now he's huge.
Yes. And he's like, hey, I'm Mo.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then he went out and was ripping. So anyway, how did you get started in all this work? I mean, you have an interesting story in this with the tour specifically, and the tour is known as being one of the greenest initiatives, and that's now spawned a whole bunch of other artists to really try to green their tours. Can you talk me through a little bit of that and how you got started and how that turned into such a vehicle for change?
Sure. So like I said, I set out to be a teacher. I actually double majored in math and art at UCSB, which is where I met Jack. We met the first week of school. We were 18. So just kids, just out of high school. And, at that point, we just were dating through college and got married a couple years out of college. And, I just thought I was going to be a school teacher the rest of my life. That's what I wanted to do. And he was just going to do music and surf films. And, he just kind of had that lucky break. And, it was kind of like all hands on deck. I just started helping him. And this was, early on, I would be the one at the club shows selling the T-shirts and then going and settling up with the show and then, helping to promote it and taking photos and all these different things. So it just slowly grew into this tour manager role because it was just easy. I would be with him anyway. So I just kind of help on all the logistics. And, he had a lot of lucky breaks, like being able to open up for Ben Harper and working with some amazing people. And along the way, there's several people who kind of took me under their wing and kind of trained me in this tour management role. And, and slowly, I kind of evolved and took more on. But I think that because Jack and I came at the music world with this, we were kind of felt like outsiders and not really coming from your normal path of like living in LA and wanting, like that wasn't really his goal either to, have a music career. Just kind of was a byproduct of him surfing and out making these surf movies. So really it was just this very organic thing. And as it evolved and as his popularity grew and he was playing bigger and bigger venues, we, found the right people to help us out. But I think we kind of always had this different perspective than kind of normal industry. And, and always having that lens of the environment and the ocean and what kind of are important to us and our ideals and looking at the music industry through that lens. So, it was kind of quickly became obvious as he grew from like the small clubs to the theaters to the amphitheaters, the environmental impact grew along with it. And you'd see like the plastic cups on the floor at the end of the night.
That must have been hard to see.
You would go from like a minivan to we actually rented this fun mover for a couple tours, which are those ones that, like the Cruise America
okay.
RVs that had the lift gate on the back that, people would use for their motorcycles and stuff. So that would work for their gear. So that we went from like a van to the fun mover to a tour bus and trucks and to like then 3 tour buses and 5 trucks. And you see this growth and the negative impact that that's having. And that's when, you kind of sit back, you go, well, we gotta do something different here.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of where, I came in because I looked at it from a whole different perspective and it wasn't from the music industry, view. And it was kind of from this teacher view. I said, wow, we really have a great opportunity here to not only do something good on our own and how we, practice, what we do on tour. So, how can we cut down on the amount of staff or how can we, use less plastic on the tour, all these things that we're doing behind the scenes. But it was more, how can we share that with everybody else and how can we bring more people on board and how can we kind of use this as an educational tool and gathering. And so I think that's kind of the difference and kind of how we approached Jack's shows and kind of started to like make change in that way.
What was the moment where you really said, okay, we're going to put in some of these more progressive policies? I mean, you've charged for cups, right? At some...
Well, so that's our reusable pint cup program. So we've actually tried that several different ways. We've given away cups to everybody that walked in the door. We've done that. We call those our plastic free shows, and done that 3 times at the Santa Barbara Bowl. So it's included in your ticket price. You get a stainless steel pint cup.
Which is a lot of work. Like, it might seem easy to the concert goer who's like, oh yeah, just give me a cup. Sure. But that's actually a ton of work, and it changes the whole economics of an event. And
yes,
right?
And you have to work it out with the caterers and everyone on the management side for the venue, making sure their operations are okay with the refills. You have to check with the health department to make sure they're okay with people refilling cups. Yeah, there's all this legwork involved in, kind of 6 months of coordination in advance of actually handing the cup to people.
For people who are thinking about ways that they can help their communities go plastic free, or for making change, was there a key learning or key stakeholder in that process where you went, that's the move? I mean, one thing that Natalie was talking about was coalition building. That's like that's your secret sauce at Kokua. Mm-hmm. You're like, yep, we bring in everybody. Yes. We talk to everybody. Is that the move with stuff like this, or is there another learning that maybe you had along on this process that...
Yeah. Well, back to your other question of like, how did we get into kind of the greening? Or, it's not like we came up with it on our own. So definitely there were some elders who inspired us. So
like who?
So definitely Neil Young. So him and his wife, Peggy, who has since passed on, and they had the Bridge School benefit, and they did that for over 30 years. And this was a benefit that they'd put on every year for a school that helped students with special needs. So it was a different platform that they were raising money for, but it was more how they did it. And so Jack had been invited to the Bridge School a couple years to play it. And it was just this really amazing experience of bringing, all these different musicians came and played. Everyone did these special acoustic set. And that was kind of what planted the scene in our mind for the Kokua Festival, and just kind of doing something special for Hawaii.
And the Kokua Festival is what?
The Kokua Festival, we started that in 2003, and that was the festival that pretty much kicked off and raised funds for the Kokua Hawaii Foundation. And then we actually held it consecutively until 2010. And that's another reason why we took a little break, if we could get to that later. But yeah, so we did the festival every year, and it was kind of it was not only the fundraising event for the foundation, but it also exemplified and, shared with everybody else, environmental education. We had tons of partners, nonprofit partners, business partners that were, at that time, this is like the early 2000s. It ran from 2003 to 2010. So just like really kind of the forefront of the environmental movement around business. This is like before B Corp and all these things, but kind of as all that was happening. And so there was these real trailblazers on the business side. And then another real big music icon that has been an inspiration to Jack musically and to us as how they tour is Willie Nelson and his family. So Lucas Nelson, obviously his son, and Micah. And we got to know Willie again here in Hawaii. He invited Jack to come play a benefit for something on Maui, and just kind of got to know them. And they ended up coming and playing Kokua Festival, and we would run into them and be a part of Farm Aid and see how they, he'd been doing Farm Aid. I think it's like in its 35th year or something now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And, they have done Farm Aid in several states. They've actually never brought it to Hawaii, so we're working on that. But just, if you talk about the first real environmentalist who's, musician, it's definitely Willie Nelson and what he does. And we learned about biodiesel from him. And, that really reduces your carbon footprint on tour. So we learned about that there's a difference in biodiesel. There's sustainably produced and grown biodiesel. And then, there's biodiesel that is imported and made from palm oil, from the Amazon.
Which is not great.
So, all biodiesel is created equal.
Hey team, a quick break from our conversation to hook you up with a 25% discount off your order from our friends and supporters at Outerknown. Outerknown supports this podcast because they care about the ocean and our planet and are making clothes accordingly. One example that is a total staple around the World Surf League office is the blanket shirt. Some say it's the coziest damn shirt ever built, and it's not uncommon for a couple people to be wearing the same shirt in the same style on the same day. They come in a bunch of styles, but I guess we all just have the same taste. #twinning. Like I said, they're super cozy and warm and perfect after a morning surf, and they're made with 100% organic cotton. Also, the buttons are nuts. Like literally the buttons are made out of nuts, which is a pretty cool little sustainable touch. Go to outerknown.com. That's outerknown.com and enter the code OCEAN at checkout and you'll get 25% off your full price order, which is a solid hookup just in time for the holidays. Remember to use the code OCEAN at checkout, 25% off. Go to outerknown.com today and don't forget the code OCEAN for the hookup. Cool. Back to the show. Yeah. And so, I mean, some of the highlights from the tour are, eliminating single-use plastic, going carbon neutral, right? So you offset your whatever emissions you can't reduce, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And then in addition, you're helping raise funds for so much of your efforts. And you also include a lot of the local nonprofits. Again, that sort of coalition building. So when the tour comes to town, you enable people to be a part of the village. And those little local nonprofits get to reach out to fans who are coming through the door, which is incredible. I believe you also give out tickets to some of those local groups that they can then raffle off or use as a giveaway.
Kind of the idea of All at Once actually came out from the Kokua Festival. We had been running the festival for about 5 years before we decided to kind of take that concept on the road with us everywhere we went worldwide. And so in 2008, Jack had a new record coming out and we decided, you know what, this was the year he wanted to, he decided, I don't really feel like touring anymore unless this is for something bigger. And that year he decided he wanted to give away all his tour profits. I said, well, if you're going to give away all your tour profits, we need to structure this. Actually, this
need a plan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all, this isn't just I just don't really want to do this unless, it's for a greater good. I'm like, well, we need to figure that out. What is this for? And that's when Johnson Ohana Foundation was formed. And so we kind of took the concept of what we had created in Hawaii with the Kokua Hawaii Foundation and the festival and, bringing groups together and kind of rallying people around the environmental education and took that on the road. And so then all at once, every show we had at least 5 to 10 nonprofit partners that kind of had the same ideals that we were working on in Hawaii. So it would be sustainable local food systems, plastic-free initiatives, whether it be, environmental education in schools. We had a lot of community garden groups, different things like that. And we brought on a nonprofit coordinator who eventually became our executive director for Johnson Ohana. So she did a lot of research to figure out who we wanted to partner with. And then her and I would kind of cherry pick the best out of those groups. And so it was kind of this little traveling festival in a way. So we call it the Village Green. We'd set it up. And we decided, we don't, a lot of musicians have nonprofit partners at the show, but we wanted to give them even more exposure, not just when, and so we wanted it to incentivize people to actually engage with them. So how do we incentivize people? And so
the passport, right?
Exactly. So that was kind of our on-site, but it started even before that because, with a tour, there's all this radio promotion and, different promotion that, ticket giveaways and all this stuff. So that's kind of the concept is tying in the nonprofits from the very beginning, having them chosen when the tour is announced, having their names out there alongside, Jack's names. And then when we get to the radio promotion, it's not be the 9th caller and win tickets. It's, go to this beach cleanup that Surfrider's sponsoring and you'll be entered to win free tickets to the Jack show. So we kind of started adding these layers of just, I guess we just kind of gave it purpose because really a lot of times it's just these weird gimmicks for marketing. Yeah. So we kind of added this, added purpose to what we were doing.
It's so cool. I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's, I don't know, it's such a fascinating backstory. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall of the conversation of, I don't want to tour anymore unless I have a purpose. I imagine those were hard conversations, but then, you phrase it and you come at it with this incredible optimism of this is an opportunity to reach people. And now it's a vehicle for incredible change, which is awesome. And that's what we need.
Yeah. And people have really responded to it because I think it's so true to what Jack and I want to do. I feel like people really, it resonates with a lot of people and it definitely isn't some kind of publicity stunt or gimmick. It's just kind of what felt right and the way to kind of the next step he wanted to take as a musician. So the last 10 years, that's kind of how we've been running the tours, building this network of nonprofit partners. And then on the non-touring years, it's been really great because through Johnson Ohana, we've developed these relationships with these nonprofits and we've been able to continue them on non-touring years and give them grants and kind of continuously support their work. And so when you say about kind of building these coalitions, we're in Australia, we're in New Zealand, we're in Europe, all across South America, North America, and kind of focusing in on these concepts of like plastic free initiatives and seeing what people are doing, seeing the best practices that are happening all over the world, and realizing like, oh, we need to have, Surfers Against Sewage in the UK talk to Surfrider in the US about what they're doing here, or we need to get Five Gyres to, so there's all these great players, and just kind of finding, their strengths and kind of connecting them has been really exciting to see. And we've had some really great projects that we've worked on.
What are some of your favorite projects over the years, to name a couple?
Well, recently
putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Recently, so sticking with the music side of things, we've had several other musicians and people in the industry who've been trying to help push that tour greening,
right,
kick that can along. And it's been hard, and we realized just this past year that we need a campaign to rally around. And so one of our partners in Australia, Green Music Australia, had a campaign that they've been running for the past couple years called BYO Bottle, and it was gaining traction in Australia, and there was like over 100 musicians and bands signed on. And the basic ask was just for musicians to cut out single-use plastic water bottles on their tours, so both backstage, and then encourage the venues and festivals that they play to not have it in the front of house, and allow people to bring in reusables and have water refills. So that was kind of the concept. And so we finally got everyone together. We're like, you know what, this is a great idea. It's working in Australia. Let's get all of our partners in Europe and the Americas and together, and let's launch this thing. And so this past Earth Day, we were able to get a groundswell of support. Now we have over 250 musicians, festivals, venues, and businesses, a lot of reusable companies producing reusables in on the campaign, and it's just growing from there. But it's just been really exciting to see the momentum and see some of these festivals like really getting on board and promoting it. And then in turn, that gets more musicians on board. So it's just kind of that's been a really fun one to watch.
It's so cool. You're taking work that you've done here or in your own sphere and world, like areas you can control, and then said, all right, let's scale this model and let's get other people on board and calling for that action, which I think is just awesome, because you scale your impact massively.
Exactly.
That's the lesson I learned from engaging with you all, is how you've been like, this is what we're doing. We figured this out, and now we're going to share this knowledge with the world so everyone else can follow. Because why keep it to yourselves,
exactly,
when doing good work, which is so cool.
And back to the teaching thing, right? Because I think teachers are always about, okay, well, how can we, package this in digestible pieces so everyone could understand it? And so I think that's definitely something all along the way with Jack's touring, the greening, what we do with Kokua is, being able to share what we've learned and with others, and just being really transparent with our, never saying like, we have this all figured out, like we're on this road too, but just letting people know, here's what we're trying to do. Here's where we're at. What ideas do you have?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anyone who says they have everything figured out is
right.
Lying.
Exactly.
We're all figuring this out as we go.
Exactly.
What do you want to talk about the farm at all?
Well, yes. So of course, just when things get,
I've heard a couple things the last couple of days here. I've heard a few rumors about this farm, so I'm eager to hear more.
So Kokua Hawaii Foundation, like I said, it's in 2020, we're celebrating our 17th birthday. And I always joke, it's my first child, right? So I think I was pregnant with my first child when we started Kokua. But
well, Natalie gave me the story of that's how she kind of was put into the job.
Oh,
is
totally.
That everyone got pregnant at once.
And I called her. It was baby number 3. That's when I called Natalie. I said, I need you to move back to Hawaii. Where are you? It was pretty funny. Yeah. So Kokua, I always joke, was our first kid. And so now it's turning 17. And, I'm like, we're getting ready for Kokua to move out of the house. It's basically my analogy there.
Because we're currently recording here in Jack's studio, and Kokua's next door in the little,
Kokua's been, at it's been like a growing home office. And so, it's just time. We've been waiting. We've been looking for the right place to land for the foundation. And we've been doing such great work in the schools, communities, and somehow we've been fine not having our own location where people come to us. We go to them because we are such great collaborators, right? So it's kind of worked out. But we knew that eventually we wanted Kokua to have its own permanent home. not just for the offices, but as a place where it's a community gathering place. And so we were keeping our eyes open and, reached some dead ends. So then when the right thing presented itself, we knew it was the right thing. And there is a 7-acre ag parcel in the heart of Haleiwa, and it connects to a 1-acre commercial parcel right on the main highway. And we were able to get both of those properties. And so our vision is to create a learning farm on the agricultural lands, and then connect it with mission-aligned businesses on the street front. And then in between, we're going to have a community center and our offices, and have it just be a real hub for it's basically a place where all of the Kokua programs can come to life.
Yeah, your farm program, your plastic-free,
Exactly.
all of
Yeah,
that.
so
That's
we have
so
our
cool.
Aina in Schools, which is our farm-to-school program. And we want to have one of the mission-aligned businesses will be the Aina farm stand. So we'll have things that were grown on the learning farm, but also grown on all North Shore farms, because we have so many friends and partners who are growing amazing things and, cooking amazing things too. So we'll have some value-added products like fresh bread and other things. So, and really excited about the community gathering place. So the community center is just a spot where anybody could kind of come in and be able to use it.
That's so cool. A sense of place is so important, and this place in particular is so special. But being able to have that little space that's your own and being able to make it a community center, I think is going to be just so powerful for Kokua in its next 20 years.
Yes. Yeah. So we're now embarking on another journey. It never ends. But
Child number 5 then?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Cool. Well, Kim, thanks so much. Is there anything else you want to share with people
thank you.
out there?
It's been really fun working with WSL Pure. We're happy that you guys are one of our partners, and been great working on the Plastic Free Wave project with you and Ethan Estes and Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. So we look forward to more work in the future.
Cool. Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you spending some time with us.
Mahalo.
Like I said, Kim and Jack and their teams at Johnson Ohana, Kokua Hawaii Foundation, All at Once, etc., they are all such a great force for good in the Hawaiian community and beyond. And they really embody the spirit of Kokua. So as you go about your week, maybe think about how you can live with the spirit of Kokua, the spirit of giving without expectation of something in return. And if you have a minute, I really encourage you to check out and support the work of Kokua Hawaii Foundation and more. We've got links in the show notes as always. Next week, we'll be back with another episode where we explain why your surfboard sucks for the environment. Until then, thanks for listening, and if you like this episode, please be sure to leave us a rating and a review. You can follow us online at WSL Pure and at WSLPure.org. Until then, see you next time.